talking, Tim,
Oh,
it'll make you the big the big person, the important one.
All right, are we ready?
All right, I'm just going to mute myself.
Okay. Same. Mute. All right, we're going to begin now. Just letting you guys know. Beginning.
Well, Tim, I'm just going to unmute myself to say welcome to everybody, but I know you're doing the big introduction, but I know it's always a bit crazy when people first, I don't know about you, but when people enter into a seminar for the first time on this sort of platform, we're not sure how it's all going to begin. So we are welcoming everybody that is coming here, and we're going to start shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to come into the virtual rooms. Thank you everybody for choosing to be here after a busy term, a busy day for everybody. My name is Daniela Falecki, and we've got Tim Hawkes here as well, and Tim's going to be leading the show for us. And I think we're about to start soon, Tim, is that right?
Absolutely, Daniela. Can I just say you're looking wonderful, and what a privilege it is, certainly for me, to be able to be sharing this webinar with you. It really is. The work that you've
equally
been doing, the work that you've been doing with teacher wellbeing is just fantastic, and this could be a great night. You're quite right. We have people signing in even as we speak. We've had over 320, Daniela, that have signed up.
Amazing.
We might just give them about 15, 25 more seconds as they are now streaming in. And we don't want them to miss these pearls of wisdom, of course.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's like year 9 coming in after lunch, isn't it, really?
But you're absolutely right in what you were saying about these saints that are joining us. You guys that are coming in, from a day's work in your schools, joining us tonight, joining Daniela and myself, absolute saints. You've at the tail end of a term where love, peace, and goodwill evaporated about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Trust me, I know. And here you are choosing to further your professional development, particularly in the well-being space. And I tell you, there's a special place in heaven reserved for all of you. So thanks so much. These are special people joining us tonight, Daniela.
They are indeed. They are. And it's lovely to see a lot of familiar names as well. I know the work that you do, Tim, and the work that I do around schools as well. People are obviously crying out and frequently crying out for ideas and ways. How can we prevent teacher burnout, and how can we better support the well-being of teachers? Because as we know, student well-being really begins with staff well-being. So I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Oh, well, good on you, Danielle. Yes, and look, just before Easter, so look, here's a treat just before you get stuck into the hot cross buns and the Easter eggs or whatever celebration you and your families and friends get up to. I do hope that you all have a fantastic Easter break. And in fact, that this break is really effective in mitigating against things like burnout. So, so there we are. Well, anyway, look, I think we might make a start. What do you reckon, Daniela?
I think so. Let's do it.
Okay, well, it's going to start with me, and it is my absolute privilege to lead off this evening. Now, I'm just going to speak for a few minutes just to introduce the topic. Then I'm going to throw to my colleague, Adam Weber, who is going to do a little exercise with you. So just be ready for a bit of interactivity here. This is so, you know, it's not all just about the mug of hot chocolate, or perhaps it's a glass or something else. We need you to actually be ready to press a few buttons. So just be ready for that, because we're going to work out in a few moments how you are traveling. We're going to just ask you a few questions. You press a few buttons to give us some feedback about how this group that's tuned into this webinar tonight, how they are traveling. And what we're going to do, Adam Weber, who is sort of, I mean, he's under 30. I just thought I'd mention that. And I'm not. Okay, you can see that, can't you? Fair enough, fair enough. But he's under 30 and he knows how to do things with buttons and things. And what he's going to do is he's going to take all of your responses, turn them into an amazing infographic. And at the end of this webinar, so do not go away, like do not, even if the cat dies, do not go away. Stay at the end, and this infographic will be shown and will give a tremendous overview as to how those of us that are attending this webinar tonight are traveling in relation to burnout. So in a moment, I'll throw to Adam and he will lead us through that little exercise, but be ready for it. Just before I start my formal presentation, such as it is, can I just say this, and if you've got any questions, then just use the link, the Zoom link there. And Adam might talk a little bit about this in a moment when I throw to him, just so that you bowl up the questions and Adam will be the question master at the end. And look, I'm sorry, but there are over 300 of you out there, and there's not always going to be a guarantee that we answer your question. And can I just apologize in advance for that? I want to. And look, we may well try after this webinar to get onto many of the questions and perhaps just get back to you with some of the answers. If we can help in any way, Daniela and I would love to try and help answer some of those questions. So just use the link there, the Zoom link, to bowl up a few questions about, obviously let's keep them related, please, to the issue of teacher wellbeing and burnout. We'll try and get onto some of those questions at the end. We'll have time, I think, for a few questions at the end. So anyway, let me start by just now sharing my screen, which doesn't want to share. So we'll just have a little look, and here we go. And all right, I see a lot of teacher wellbeing programs, and a lot of the programs that I see leave me very disappointed in their efficacy in preventing teacher burnout. And I just want to say that, and this has disturbed me so much that it's caused me, and indeed my business partner, Adam, yeah, the one who's under 30, the better looking one, to actually design a program to overcome a number of problems. And the first one is that I see far too many well-being programs and issues of teacher burnout being monitored. And monitoring, look, is important. It really is important. But we need to do more than just monitor. Our teachers are a precious resource. We are losing a third of our teachers within the first 5 years of them being in the profession. That's a massive loss of billions and billions of dollars. And so we need to do something about that. We are about 60 to 70% of teachers are registering unacceptable levels of stress. This is not good. And obviously with these COVID times, the levels of stress have increased. So we need to do more than just monitor, we need to prevent. But I'm going to stop right there and not go any further with my presentation, because have you got your fingers ready? Do a few finger exercises, because now, Adam, I want you to take over the screen, mate, and to share with those that are here how it is that they can fill out this well-being questionnaire, this stress questionnaire, this burnout questionnaire, which we've developed. So over to you, Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. That was a fantastic introduction. So this is just a very quick little quiz that we created, and when Tim and I were looking at burnout surveys or quizzes a couple months back, we couldn't see anything that was able to be diagnostic in nature without putting you on an email marketing list. So this is just a very short quiz here. There's only 12 questions, and at the end of this, you will get insight into where you're at and a score. And we'll come back to that at the end of right at the end of the webinar here. Now, if you've already got your coffee and your phone in the other hand, and you're not, this is not a compulsory exercise, so don't be too concerned. But we are going to collectively go through the results of everyone who is participating in this. So I'm going to post this on in the comments here. And I'm also going to be posting this on our Facebook live video that is happening right now. So it's very easy. You'll click on there on that link. It should take you to a landing page that says Teacher Burnout Quiz, and then you just hit the begin button, and then just read the questions carefully and just answer them. It should only take about 60 to 90 seconds at the absolute max, and we'll come back to that right after the presentations. And I think this is going to be a really interesting exercise to get a good sample size of teachers of what are the major indicators. All right, so
there it is. So go for it. Go and have a look. Click on the link, and just it really just inquires after your well-being and what the major stresses are in your life. So have a go. What are the stresses in your life, Daniela?
Oh my gosh, I need a couch, Tim. Goodness gracious me. I think one of the things when I did the recently when I did the burnout quiz, it really helped me just take stock of what I'm doing, and I teach well-being, for goodness sake. So it really, I think that's the point, is that well-being is not just a one-off thing, and well-being is not just one thing that we do. For example, we know with physical well-being, we don't go to the gym once in February and tick that off and say, oh, that's good, I've done that for the rest of the year, don't have to do it again. It's an ongoing thing. So really checking in with ourselves regularly is so important.
And this ties in with that first point that I'm making about preventative. We've got to do monitoring, and that's what, in a sense, we're doing with this little exercise. I know it's just a fun one. It's a short one. It's a micro quiz, if you like.
Yeah.
But and this is going to be great to get this information from you guys. So continue on. We'll give you one more minute just to complete.
1 more minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and
we've
then
gotten a number of responses already, so I'm very excited.
Wow. And I love that this survey, I mean, we know, as I'm Adam, myself and Tim, obviously all teachers, educators, and my gosh, done so many surveys in the past, and sometimes we get surveyed out. We get surveyed burnout. But what I like about this one is, like you said, it takes literally 2 minutes to do and gives meaningful feedback, as opposed to data being collected and put in a folder and never to be seen again.
Absolutely.
It's true. It's true. So,
okay.
All right. Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to give it 15 seconds and try and submit your data if you can and send it through. And then Adam will wave his magic on that and we'll turn it into an infographic.
Wonderful.
Which we will see.
Well, I might share my stuff. Adam, are we ready for that part?
Yeah, we're ready. I'll just help a couple of participants that are having a bit of trouble there, but that's good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, here we are. My gosh. Let's just make sure this little thing wants to play with us nicely. Sometimes, sometimes the whole internet thing and Zoom thing, and goodness, COVID has taught us how to be resilient, if anything else. So here we are. Those of you that are not familiar with my background is I'm a teacher, been a teacher for 25 years. And if you're wondering which one is me, is it the left or the right? It really depends if it's Monday or Friday, week 1 or week 10. So I tend to fluctuate, I think, as we all do. I spent 10 years working in government schools in southwest Sydney. I live in Sydney, live in the south part of Sydney. and then 5 years in independent schools, then the next 10 years working between outdoor education, casual teaching in various schools, in lots of different sectors, Catholic education, and government education, independent schools, and then working in university, Western Sydney University, and lots of other different places. And one of the interesting things I found is that it doesn't matter who you're speaking to in education, the stories are really the same. And what I mean by stories being the same is that we listen to the cause. What are the things that are causing our stress? And the first one, rise in student demands and expectations. Increase in workload. I often say to teachers, is the job getting harder or getting easier? And it's getting harder. Why? Because there's greater accountability. And that accountability has a place. But then there's this concept of vulnerability as well, because here I am doing the best I can with all the resources that I have, multitasking, juggling, doing extracurricular, staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and I come to work the next day and I see someone with a ticker box assessing if I'm good enough or not. And yet I do take that personally. So having better systems in place to better manage my own vulnerability and what that means for me. Also the fact that we can be involved in up to 1,000 interpersonal contacts a day. So it's miss, sir, it's constant. And then we come home to our family and we think, oh my gosh, no one talked to me. I don't know if I'm oversharing, but that's how I feel often when I come home after work. Then, of course, you've got your own expectations. This little person inside here that is called the self-critic. We're so tough on ourselves and we suffer from this disease called perfectionism. We also don't get taught social and emotional competence training. Teaching is about the relationship. We do it because we've got a big heart. We do it because we care. And so where are the opportunities for us to manage that human being space? I often say when I'm running workshops around Australia for teachers, I say, write this down, and they get their pen. And I say, I want you to write this down verbatim. I am a human being, not a human doing. I am a human being, not a human doing. We are a human. We have these emotions and feelings and moods and ups and downs. So being able to understand that is pretty important. Of course, demanding parents, let's not start. And no time. There just isn't enough time. These are real things. These are things that are global. 3 years ago, I was at an international positive education conference in Dallas. 2,000 teachers from 250 different countries around the world. Every single conversation I had with a teacher was pretty much the same. It doesn't matter where you are or what you do. Basically, the issues are very similar. So what I actually did is I thought, well, what do we do? How can we actually do this? We've got no time, no money, no resources, crowded curriculum. The accountability is increasing. Then there's the politics, then there's numeracy and literacy, priorities. How do we actually support the wellbeing of staff? What are some of the key things we can do? And this is the question that I keep getting time and time again. And often principals would call me and say, Daniela, can you come and speak to our staff about wellbeing? We gave them a barbecue. We don't know what else to do. And I say, well, your barbecue is lovely and your barbecue has a place. But what conversations are people having at the barbecue? Are they having conversations about possibility, about success, about impact? Are they actually building the collective efficacy of the team? Or are they having that little whinging, venting conversation that's being a little bit of a virus? So what type of conversations are actually being had? So this is the question that people would often speak to me about. And I would say, well, what are you already doing? And the first things that schools say to me is they say, oh, we have our morning teas. And I say, all right, what else? They're like, oh, we had a wellness week where we did yoga. And I say, okay, lovely, but not quite strategic. Oh, we had something else where we did this for a day and we did that for a day. And I say, look, all of those things are lovely. But can you imagine if we had the same philosophy with students? Can you imagine saying to year nine, we've organised a wellbeing day for you. We've got sessions on bullying, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, managing alcoholism and so on. And so, okay, and then we've ticked that. And then students come to us a month later about wellbeing. We say, oh no, we haven't got time for that because we did, just refer to your notes, will you? It's ridiculous, right? But we have this idea that with staff wellbeing, that there's one-off stuff because we say we haven't got time and we consider it a luxury. But what if we use the same lens to plan and be strategic with student wellbeing? We use that same lens with staff wellbeing. And I just want to back up one little part there when I mentioned that wellbeing day for year 9. That wasn't actually a wellbeing day. That was an illness day of disease. But that's a whole other story that I'll talk about another time. So what do you do first? The roadmap for strategic transformative change. Step 1, we need to explain what wellbeing actually is. Step 2, give people an opportunity to experience it. So I put people in buddies and say, have a go, have a venting buddy, have a progress buddy, have a goal coaching buddy. So we have opportunities to play and experience. Then we need to evaluate and say, well, what works well? How do I know? Is this really working for me? What's not working for me? Then we'll start to review and embed and say, well, what works for our school context? What aligns with our school vision, our school mission, our values? And then, of course, we evolve and we go back to the beginning, because well-being is a never-ending cycle. Same with physical well-being. Psychological well-being is an ongoing process that needs constant review and constant attention. Give you a quick little example. So let's look at personal well-being, or a step 1 is explain well-being. Now, we speak to, sometimes I walk into a workshop and when I'm working with whole staff, and someone will say to me, oh, where are the massage oils? And I say, wrong workshop. Or they say, oh, we did yoga last week. And I say, well, that's great. That's fantastic. And all of these strategies have a place, but it's more complex than that. What actually does well-being mean to you? And we know from the science that well-being has 5 domains. So there's the cognitive part of how do I actually think? And did you know that you as an educator can make up to 1,500 decisions a day? 1,500. So that's why when you come home at night and your family say to you, what movie do you want to see? And you say, oh, look, I don't care. And then they say, oh, what do you want to eat? Chinese or Indian? And you say, stop talking to me. I don't know if I'm oversharing, but that's certainly my experience. We actually suffer from cognitive fatigue, decision overload, cognitive overload. So that's one of the areas to focus on. The other part is social. How do I actually connecting? Am I the person at school that everyone wants to be around? Or am I the person at school that people say, oh my gosh, coming quick, go the other way? And there's always that person there. Let's just tell the truth. Then, of course, there's emotional well-being. How am I connecting to my emotions? Because do you know why you're so tired? Why you're so stressed? Because you care. You have a big heart. That's a beautiful thing to actually have. Then, of course, there's 4, which is physical well-being, how you connect to your body. Do you move, eat, sleep, those types of things? And then, of course, there's spiritual well-being, which is associated to my beliefs and my values. How do you live your beliefs and how do you live your values? So this is where we're talking about the complexity. Step 1, understand and discuss what well-being actually means. Once we do that, then we can say, all right, let's start identifying personal well-being plans. So we say individually, what am I going to do for myself today? Which domain of well-being am I going to focus on today? We can't focus on all of them, one each day, one at a time, because otherwise what happens is we think, I went to this workshop with these, crazy people that told me about this well-being stuff. We say, that's it, I'm going to focus on my well-being. And we say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and do boot camp. And then I'm going to write in my gratitude journal. Then on the way to school, I'm going to do 3 random acts of kindness. Then I'm going to eat salad with a smile on my face. And by the time I get to lunchtime, I'm so over it, I'm going to eat pizza. It's not sustainable. So what if you pick one domain a day and said, that's what I want to focus on today? So that's personal well-being, but that's only one part of the story. The part that we really miss in schools is we miss the collective. We miss the opportunities for staff to actually reflect on the negatives and positives, for staff to, what is your self-care plan? How can we actually have compassion for each other? Where are the opportunities for us to connect in positive ways and receive meaningful feedback with each other? What about, how do I nourish myself in the staff room? How is my physical environment nourished? And what are the spiritual links to my individual beliefs and the collective beliefs of the organisation? And this is where leaders, school leaders, have a responsibility and an opportunity to provide opportunities for staff to participate in this way. For example, how are staff meetings conducted? What if we ask what went well at the end of a staff meeting? What if we actually said, we're going to have compassion, but we're going to demonstrate that compassion in in the way that we conduct our conversations, our reflections with each other? What if we actually gave each other meaningful feedback that was strategic, evidence-based, and highlighted positive impact? And these things we know in research are necessary. In theory, we know, but what does it look like in the real world? I don't know about you, but in the past, I've organized an excursion or a carnival or whatever it might have been. And I will do 3 months of work, 100 emails, thousands of letters, speaking to different people. And on the day of that excursion, I will have 3 people coming up to me saying, just letting you know you've double booked that room. And I say, oh, for goodness sake, no one told me the 35 things I did right, but 3 of you want to highlight the one thing I did wrong? Not helpful, not helpful. And we say, oh, but it's about improvement. We'll find a better way, because we don't do that to students. We don't speak that way to students, but we have a tendency to forget the basics of pedagogy when it comes to our colleagues. So having opportunities to do that is really important. But even more so, we know through work health safety that organisations have a legal responsibility to support the psychological health and safety of their workers, psychological health and safety of people in schools. And so what it means is we actually have a responsibility to either eliminate what they call psychosocial hazards, substitute, redesign work, educate, and then encourage. What we typically see in schools happen is we see schools operating, creating their teacher wellbeing programs. I'm going to encourage you to be well. Here's a gym membership for you to go and be fitter. Here's a mindfulness program. Here's an apple instead of a muffin. We're going to encourage you. Those things are great, but they're the tip. And we need to be more strategic at the other layers and other levels if you want to do that. And this is where TrueWell comes in. Now, when I spoke to Tim and Adam, I was so excited to finally see a program that was flexible, practical, realistic, and meaningful. Now, if we look at the whole school approach, here we have step 1. I think the professional learning day is really important because it builds common language, it builds buy-in, everyone gets on the same page, we dispel myths and facts and so on. So everyone's there together. That is fantastic. But then we know that teaching doesn't equal learning. People, staff and students need opportunities to apply the learning. And this is where TrueWell can give us an opportunity to provide surveys, pre and post, regular, constant. And Tim and Adam are going to talk more about the TrueWell platform. Then there's follow-up activities that support leaders. This is where the consulting piece comes in as well, to say, I'm going to support you to show you what's going to work in your specific context. Because I can't tell you how many times people say, oh, can you give me a wellbeing plan? And I say, no, I can't. And they go, oh, that's not very fair. And I say, because there is no one cookie cutter approach. It's an organic process. So step 3, TrueWell. It gives teacher voice. What are the main concerns? What are the issues for you? There's follow-up activities. I have a number of different activities that I provide on my website as well. You've got a free ebook with strategies. You've got cards, chat box cards, connect cards to inspire the conversation, which is so important. And then, of course, you've got the embedding part, which is the consulting component. Again, really supporting leaders. It's not about me, Tim, or Adam coming into your school to fix anything. It's about us working with you to say, what do you need? Here is a toolbox of resources. You might need this for this, or this for this, or this for that. And that's where we really help you articulate and formulate all that together. And of course, step 5 is evolve. It's an never-ending cycle of action research or agile approach, or however you want to explain it. But in a nutshell, just to finish, when people say to me, what's one thing of where I should start with teacher wellbeing? And I say it comes down to the types of conversations that we have. Now, conversations are solution-focused, coaching conversations, the questions that we ask, and having some training around what type of questions are so important. And TrueWell not only offers the surveys and the online platform to do that, but it also it helps you move in a forward direction. Just as it took time to develop student wellbeing programs, it takes time and to develop teacher wellbeing programs as well. So I hope that gives you a bit of a, very difficult to share a big full day workshop in 20 minutes, but there's things we can do for ourselves, but then there's things that the organisation we need to do as well. And together that forms a strategic approach. So does that make sense to you, Tim?
It certainly does, Daniela. I love the passion, and I love the fact that you have portrayed in your voice and in what you're doing, your commitment to the well-being of teachers, and some very, very practical steps there. And I love the fact that it's real, and you certainly, you are speaking with all the authority of somebody who has taught, and that's what I love about the work that you're doing and that Daniela does. Her program has been designed by a teacher for teachers, and doesn't that give that veneer of integrity?
Absolutely, because as we know as teachers, if you don't teach and you haven't worked in a school, you just don't know. And I speak to so many people from other organizations, and they say, oh yeah, but everyone experiences stress and everyone has pressure. And I say, I know, but it's just different, and you don't know what you don't know. And so it's a matter of finding the reality of it, because frankly, who's got time for anything else?
Well, let me share my screen and follow through on what Daniela's very kind invitation to talk a little bit about TrueWell. I actually don't want to talk about TrueWell specifically, but I want to talk about what it is that makes for a terrific wellbeing program in a school. And so anyway, so here we go. And I think what you want to do, if you're looking for wellbeing programs for schools to look after your teachers and to prevent this issue of burnout, you want programs that are preventative. So many programs will monitor how you're going as you fall off the cliff. We don't have enough programs that are building fences at the top of the cliff. And the work that Daniela is doing, the work that we're doing at TrueWell, this is what we are trying to do. And so we have a whole range of redemptive programs, preventative programs for teachers that are going to enrich them so that they actually don't get to that dark place, that really, really dark place. So my next screen, just trying to move it on. It doesn't seem to want to work here, but here we go. Let's just see if I can move it on. Adam, can you help me move my screen at all? No.
Sometimes they're a bit slow.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Oh, right. Magic.
Oh, it's working now. So good stuff. All right. Well, Daniela was right. I mean, she mentioned some absolute things, and you know what the stresses are. Here's some of them: workload, resource issues, lack of affirmation, encouragement. Isn't that an issue? Bureaucracy burdens, poor student attitudes. Pay, interestingly enough, although an issue in the lives of some people, not the greatest. This is not one of the major reasons for burnout, the researchers are telling us. Workplace harassment, relationship issues, boredom, burnout, job security, COVID-19. Can I just say, you've seen those silver bullets there. Look at those. Can I just say that this is one of the major reasons we have colleagues that are burnt out? These are some of the reasons in that we are seen so often to be the silver bullets. I was reading in my news feed this morning that evidently in South Australian schools are not going to expel young children from schools anymore. Here we are. Bureaucrats have done their job. Fantastic. Who's going to pick up that slack? Who's going to pick up that slack? It's going to be the teachers. And so often we are seen as the silver bullets. Sometimes we are parents. We are doing the job of parents, teaching about various issues which used to be taught by parents. Often we're prophets. We're having to look into the future, see what it is that is there, and to prepare our students for that future. We are prophets. Often we are priests. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about some sacred role necessarily, but there is an element of sacredness to our role in that we dare to suggest to our students behaviors that are worthy of the human conditions and those that are not. We are all of these things. talking of workload, have a look at this. Have a look at these figures. Aren't these interesting? This is primary teachers. Primary teachers, 6,000 years of instruction per annum. In Finland, much vaunted, much celebrated, 3,794 hours. That is a lot less. The OECD average 4,500. So claims of teacher workload in Australia have some substance. And how do we spend that time? Have a look at these other figures down here. Hours, task. We're at work for about 52.2 hours. Of those, about 20 for teaching, and then another 10 or so, or 12 or so, lesson planning and marking. There's a lot of other hours left out of that 52.2, isn't it? Bureaucracy. And we've got to be very, very careful about these. These are very, very real issues. And so we need these preventative courses that are going to talk about how it is that you can handle workload issues. This is just an example. We could have chosen any of those stresses that we mentioned a little bit earlier. And so we need to look at issues. This time and motion one, I put this up here just as a bit of a giggle, because some of you have heard about time and motion studies, and the term comes from Frederick Taylor merging his work with time with the Gilbreths. And I reckon they actually needed a bit of organisation, because the Gilbreths had 12 children. Trust me, I'm only admitting to 3, and that sort of occupied my time. So we need preventative programs and the sorts of magical exercises that Daniela does that are going to help us prevent getting into that dark place. Another thing that I think we really need in our programs that are going to help with teacher burnout is these programs need to be customizable. Now, here's a very hot bit of kit here. Look at this. Sorry, it's a bit of a boy photograph. I'm sorry about that. But customizing, your set of wheels. We love to do that. I think we need to customize our wellbeing programs. We don't want a one-size-fits-all wellbeing program for our schools. They must be customizable. And certainly we, Adam and I, Truewell, we try and do this. We can customize our facial decorations. You can see that. We need to customize our wellbeing program. You also need to make them interactive. I mean, you can listen to videos, you can do all this sort of stuff, but that idea of interactivity often goes missing. And Daniela used a fabulous phrase about teacher's voice. And we need to be able to create a teacher voice. We need programs which are going to wellness programs which are interactive, where I hear you, I hear what you're saying. We need to be able to ask our teachers, have you got any ideas? Now, there's an idea. There's an idea.
You're talking nonsense. Nonsense.
And Daniela, I mean, crazy. How many wellbeing programs for teachers? And they don't actually ask teachers, hey, have you got any ideas for
I know. It's crazy. I had a staff member speak to me not long ago, and for their whole staff, they were having a staff wellbeing day. Yeah. And he was saying to me, can you believe it? They're making us go to the golf course and making us dress up and making us play these games. And frankly, I've got better things to be doing. And I thought, the intention was lovely of this school trying to organise and prioritise. It would have cost them a fortune, but they didn't ask what they actually wanted. And it's one thing for everybody. And they wonder why it doesn't work and why people get disgruntled. So
absolutely. So here it is, Daniela. I'm just
yes.
So we need to do surveys, but at the end we need to personalize it. Somebody needs to have listened to say, hey, Daniela, not hey X7329, we have a personal interest in you. It doesn't work, trust me. Daniela, we know you, we hear what you're saying. It's so important. Look, tragically, I've been a headmaster now for nearly 30 years, or a principal, that is, and in classrooms for nearly 50 now, for goodness sake. But one of the tragic things that happened to me very early on in headship, I was age 36, I lost a member of staff to suicide. And this topic about importance of immediacy has burnt into me. This wonderful teacher swam out into Port Phillip Bay, drowned himself. His son was in my school. His son had to go to the morgue to recognize his father. He did that underneath the sheet there. He recognized, he said, Dr. Hawkes, I knew it was my dad. I could see the lock of hair, and that I just knew that was his hair. And such a dreadful, tragic thing. And to that day, I recognized the importance of being able to monitor, yes, the well-being, but to have immediate feedback so that we could react. And we need to have programs where there is immediate advice, reminder of the help agencies that exist within the school and also the help agencies outside of the school. And so, you know, we need programs like how you're going, how you're feeling. And of course, what we do at True Well is that we give a letter. We say, hey, you're not traveling well here, or hey, you're traveling really well. You need to speak to somebody immediately. This is an absolute priority. And these are the help agencies that are there at your school. We find out that information. And here are the help agencies outside of the school. And you're able to track this sort of well-being. And the last 2 points about if you're analyzing a program to see whether it's going to work for you, a well-being program, is it needs to be comprehensive. And what do you reckon, Daniela? I'd be interested in your thoughts here, because I find programs are there and they sort of cater for students, for example. But you're not going to be able to help the well-being of students unless you help the well-being of staff. What do you reckon?
No, absolutely. But the research supports that time and time again through the work of Sue Roffey. Yeah. There's so many people. And in fact, on my website, if you go into media and you go into one of the drop-down menus, I think free stuff, there's got free stuff as well. I published a chapter in a book, and it's all on teacher resilience. And there's hundreds of bits of research showing that when students are well, when staff are well, students are more likely to be well. And then the more often we spend time on student wellbeing programs, but you've got teachers that are don't really understand it, or they're not invested in it, or it's not authentic. And also you've got the CASEL, which is the Collaborative Academic Social and Emotional Learning Organization, so CASEL.org. And that's the big research body in the United States that informs the rest of the world for all social and emotional learning. And part of their principles is that staff must learn it and staff must live it for it to be authentically represented to students. So it's really important. And then also, the other thing I want to touch on that you've already said here, Tim, is that is that it's inclusive for all people. And my mind boggles when I get an email from someone who's asked me to come and speak to teacher wellbeing, and then they say, "Oh, is it all right if the SLSOs join? Is it all right if the other staff, the non-teaching staff?" And I say, "Yeah, because wellbeing is a human condition. And yes, we talk about teachers because my background is teaching, but it's actually staff wellbeing in terms of the organisation. And like I said, work health and safety. We're talking about reducing psychosocial hazards for staff, which includes, job demand and recognition and job clarity and all these other things which we take for granted and consider them as a luxury, but actually they're a necessity."
Totally right, Daniela. And certainly that's what Adam and I think too. And that's why our True Well program supports teachers. It supports support staff. 30 to 40% of employees in schools are support staff. I'll tell you another group that we've been working with. We've been working with a group called Class Cover, and they provide temporary staff for schools, Daniela. And I tell you what, if you want stress, if you want stress, you become a casual teacher. You've got to cope with not sitting in that right chair, not eating any of the cream biscuits because they're reserved for those, etc. You don't know where you're going.
Absolutely. I was a casual teacher for 5 years while I started my company. And my gosh, that was an action research model for myself. you get a Post-it note this big, and you've got a double period with year 10 teaching French. And you're like, wow, I don't speak French. What am I supposed to do with this lesson? That is stress.
Well, just before I close and share a few thoughts of my own, but I think another thing which you need to look at when you're looking at wellbeing programs, to help teach mitigate against teacher burnout is to make sure that they're contemporary. And we these days, we really do need to have, they need to be digital, they need to be interactive, they need to be part of a whole collection of measures. As Daniela said, you don't just rely upon one measure, and you've actually, it's got to be a cultural thing where the whole of the school are committed to it. But I think you do, having said that, use modern technologies. The modern technology these days, the digital ones, we certainly at Truewell make sure that we can deliver programs, you know, on the mobile phone and things like this. We deal with contemporary issues too, so important. We have issues about distance learning and the pressures and the tensions that that produces. We've just produced, Adam and I, a free, actually, if you want it, it's free. Hey, you want this? Steak knives. Well, this is free, but we've done a program on sexual consent for students. And I think it's a great thing for teachers to look at as well, because then they are equipped to be able to help their teachers. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at the moment and just going to stop by just sharing one or two little pet things. Hey, if you've got power, abuse it, right? I've got the screen, I've got the microphone. I'm actually going to just to share one or two little things, little tips from the headmaster's study, if you like, or the principal's study about burnout. Particularly about burnout. It really builds upon some of the terrific ideas that Daniela has shared. First thing, hey, if you're feeling burnt out, use your long service leave. There are so many people who don't use their long service leave. They save it up, and then when they go to another job and get a double income. Now, look, long service leave wasn't designed for that. It was designed to refresh and to re-energize. Explore other options like doing macro, meso, micro exchanges with other schools. Macro being 1 year interstate. In the days when we could do that, okay, fair enough. Okay, meso maybe interstate or even somewhere else in your own state in another school for a term. And micro, see whether you can do a week's swap with another school. Fantastic ideas. Often, if there's a reciprocal nature thing going on, it doesn't cost any money, and it can lead to you gleaning all the ideas from the other school, pretending that they're yours, and introducing them to your own school. It's fantastic. Just look at your teaching environment. Daniela made mention of this, but look, do it. One of the things that I did when I was feeling very tired after teaching was that I just arranged all of my desks into a giant Harkness desk, which is basically an oval desk, which facilitates exchanges between students this way, basically circular or oval in my case, rather than, you know, this transformational model. If you can hear fireworks, by the way, that is because of opera in the in Sydney at the Royal Botanic Gardens, and they at one point in the opera they let off all these fireworks. Anyway, it's just finished. So
I thought they were celebrating you, Tim.
Yeah, you look, they're only human. Of course they are. Of course they are. Yeah.
I think.
Look, the positive psychology movement has a great deal to offer. Have a look at the work that Martin Seligman and his team are dealing with there, and use the help agencies that exist. So important. I'm going to.
So Tim, can I just share one little thing that I find really common and critical? I think is our own inner critic. We suffer from this whole perfectionism thing, and the job's already tough. And then I see teachers staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, cutting out circles for their staff, for their student activity. And I'm like, why can't it just squares and make life easy? Why, like, you're spending 3 hours cutting out little circles? It's great to care, but think about how much time it's costing me here, and is it going to be that effective on the other end? So sometimes we set higher expectations for ourselves, and we're our own worst enemy.
That's true. Now, I was in that half of the class that made the top half possible, and my expectations of my own performance were not great. until I became a teacher. And then all of a sudden I wanted perfection in my life and in my teaching. And look, that's a great thing. But Daniela's absolutely right. We've just got to be wise. I mean, one of the things that is interesting, I was having a chat with a number of staff at secondary school, and the workload issue is massive. And I actually said to them, have you tried getting your students to mark each other's work? Oh, I couldn't do that. They would have. Well, why not? I mean, if you train them, it's a bit like, show somebody how they can fish, and you feed them for life rather than giving them a fish. You only feed them for a day. Yeah. There are things that you can be doing. Do some sample marking and stuff. It's not, obviously, it's not appropriate for all tasks, but there are a lot of tricks that you can use to actually cut down on the workload issue.
And this is where sometimes we need the time to stop and think. Because we're so busy, we become a bit of a rat on the wheel. And you speak to people and say, well, why are you doing it? And they're like, because it's the way I've always done it. And say, well, is it working for you? And like, oh, no one's ever asked me before. I said, well, let's take this time to actually stop and reflect and say, is this really working for me now? I know it worked for me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, but is it working and necessary now? And often we don't have time to just stop, think, and be self-aware. And I think a lot of the stuff I do in the well-being space, and I know the courses that you've got on TrueWell as well, is that opportunity to stop and think and say, well, hang on a second, how am I going right now? And who am I? And how am I showing up? How am I being? And then what do I need in this particular space? And they're really simple questions, but we need the opportunity to just stop and give ourselves that space to think for a minute.
Yeah, no, that's great, Daniel. One of the one common feature of all of my leadership failures, of which there are volumes are still being written about, the one common denominator is with all of my decision making is me.
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes that could be crushing, and we can be very, very down on ourselves. But those 1,500 decisions a day that Daniela was talking about, they're real, and you can imagine how many more decisions there might be. I don't, for middle management, for school leaders as well, and for those school leaders that are listening in here. God bless you. I mean, you really are very much what I would call rangatiras, which is a delightful word. It's a Maori word which means weaver of people. And that's what you are. But if you are a weaver of people and binding a community together and spending yourself in that manner, there is a cost factor. And it's not just physical energy, it's emotional energy, just what Daniela mentioned. And we need to restore ourselves.
Yeah.
And not, as Daniela suggests, it's actually a really, really selfish investment by the school if they say, hey, take a break, because they know that in saying that, whether it's to their leaders or indeed their teachers, take a break. And for those of you that are in middle management too, you need to look for ways and means whereby you can take the burden off your teachers. And if they say, oh, no, I couldn't, say, no, we want you to, because we know that we're going to get so much more productivity out of you if you look after yourself. What do you
Absolutely. It's that whole, I often say at the start of a workshop, I say, put your hand up if you truly, truly care about the students, and everyone puts their hand up. We hope they do anyway. And then I say, okay, well, if you truly care about the students, you must put something back in the cup, because you can't keep pouring from an empty cup. And people say, oh, but I feel really guilty if I stop. And I say, well, does that mean that you don't matter? Because as an educator, we've all done this. You're speaking to your class over here, and you say, John, put that down. And John says, oh my gosh, Miss sees everything. And I say, yes, we do, John, because I've got eyes in the back of my head. And I say to people, forget having eyes in the back of your head, put eyes on top of your head and put yourself in the picture. You are a human being in that space as well. So you need to restore your own stuff. And if you truly, truly care about the students, you will take that time to stop, and you will put something back in the cup. Otherwise, you're not actually being your best self, and therefore you're being of disservice to the students.
Oh, that's great, Daniela. Look, we could go on forever, but
We better answer some questions.
Sparking of each other, which is fantastic. Can I just finish now by throwing to Adam? Adam, this is you, mate. So,
yes.
Now, have you got? This is your show and tell, mate. Are you able to give us a graphic? And I don't know whether we've had any questions bowled up. I rather suspect we can maybe have time for one or two. But anyway, so take it away, Adam.
Yes, absolutely. So not quite an infographic, Tim. This is a dashboard, the analytics. We will be creating an infographic and we will send that out hopefully tomorrow. Otherwise by Tuesday, just because of the long weekend working, we'll work to get that out. So we've had 38 teachers complete the teacher burnout quiz, which is very exciting to see a number of participants complete that. And so the first question we asked is, how are you going out of 1 to 10? And we can see overall how the group is going. So on average, it's around a 5 or 6 out of 10. So it is an average sort of response. Now we break this down even more, and we scroll down to the table here and look at the stresses. So I'm just going to move this over here. And so we can see for job satisfaction has reduced significantly. It's a 2.8. Increased irritability or anger about work is a 3.0. So we can look at the numbers and they are quite low. Now, you might just think, that's an average.
Scale out of 5, is it? A scale out of 5? It's
out of 5, yes. Yep. Yes, out of 5, yep. So you might look at this and go, okay, so that means feeling overwhelmed by work requirements is not as much of an indicator or a stressor for the teachers here. And this is where it's really important to identify cohorts. And we don't want, to be lost in averages. We don't want to be lost in averages as teachers. And so we want to be seen as, where we're currently at. And so in fact,
I like that idea. Don't get lost in averages. You're absolutely right.
That's right.
They can they can hide a lot of actually really important information. And so this is what you've done here. You've actually you explode, as it were, those averages, so you can actually go in and look rather more forensically at what's going on. Yeah,
absolutely.
So these
and that's very you're able to do that very quickly once you have exploded those numbers. I really like using that word. That's the word I'm going to use now. It's very interesting to see this breakdown. So for example, increased desire to search for alternative employment. We've got about 50% of the participants who did go through that are doing that, or seeing that as a significant thing that they're doing right now. And also job satisfaction.
Yeah, number 7.
Has also reduced significantly. So there's a lot of interesting insights. Only 3% rated 1 out of 5 that it's a serious issue, that feeling overwhelmed by work requirements. About 70% said that work requirements is not a major stressor. So we're seeing some really interesting insights just from doing this quick survey, and that's the important thing about doing these very quick quizzes and surveys. Most people who design surveys, they love them. That's all they can think about. Myself and Tim, we're very big cynics, and I did one wellbeing survey when I was a teacher, and I knew exactly what it was. It was a ticking box exercise, and we have built this all around not being a tick boxing exercise. It's all about capturing teacher voice and seeing where teachers are at. And once we have got this insight very quickly, it's very hard for leaders to be able to make changes that they know are going to impact on these stresses. So it's important to get these insights very quickly without having to read through multiple pages. So those I would say are the major findings from this, and we will create an infographic so that you can go through that.
Okay, well, it's not quite the infographic that I had thought it was going to be, but that's great. Thanks, Adam. Now, look, I'm aware of the time. But we've got 3 minutes. Well, and we could be a little bit rubbery about those. Adam, I'm sure you've had a few questions that have popped up on your screen there, and have you got one you could bowl up to Daniela?
Yes, I do have one from Daniela. I won't be using names, but the question is, I arrived at school already stressed and anxious. What tips have you got to help me get my act together before going into the classroom?
Well, the first thing is a bit of self-compassion and realizing that you're a human being, not a human doing. So remember that what we said before about that pressure on ourselves. And the other thing is mindfulness. Now, I know typically when I speak to people about mindfulness, the first thing they do is roll their eyes and say, oh, yeah, I don't do meditation. I say, well, that's good, because that's not what mindfulness is. Meditation is a type of mindfulness, but there's many activities we can do. If we look at what the point of mindfulness is to be fully present in our body. Simple little thing that sometimes I do when I'm frazzled and I'm running between places is I will literally, before I go into that classroom, I will stop, close my eyes, and I will literally do a grounding exercise where I imagine that I'm a tree and I wiggle my feet on the floor and I feel a big, deep breath in my diaphragm, and I'll be really present in my body, and I wiggle my fingers and I wiggle my toes. I count to 3. And then I'm in my body, and then I can enter in the space. I will do that before a difficult parent meeting, before a difficult meeting, stop, when I'm moving between places. It's a matter of gathering myself. Mindfulness is a wonderful place to start, and there are many different types of activities you can do for mindfulness. There's walking meditations, there's fully being present, there's breathing exercises, and there are some fantastic apps. I've got about 12 different mindfulness apps on my phone, and I alternate between them. But it's a skill, and it's a learned skill of just learning to breathe and be present in your body.
Oh, can I just support what Daniela said, that there's some great apps out there. Do use them. Do use them. And if you need any further advice on that, then just contact Daniela. Her contact details are there. And the lovely thing that Daniela can do is that she can actually tell you which of these apps is particularly good. So I mean, she's very experienced in that space. So yeah. Have you got another question there, Adam?
It's 8 o'clock now, so I just I just want to say that one of the courses, the True courses, and we'll send this out freely to all teachers. You'll get an email from us over the next couple of days, and it's called The Tricks to Remaining Positive. It is the best course on positive psychology. When I read this, I was amazed, and I wish I had completed that when I was a teacher. My well-being would have improved, and I would have seen things very differently. Positive psychology, is becoming, more mainstream and more accepted and taught more to teachers, but there's still a huge gap there, especially with if it's all just scrolling down. It's hard to sometimes capture that. So I'll be sending all the teachers here a link to that teacher wellbeing course. Now there has been quite a bit of information about Truewell, and feel free to go to our website and sign up, and we'll sort you out. But Daniela is fantastic, and if you need something that is tailored and customized to the needs of your school, Daniela is the person to go to, and go to her website, and she will sort you out.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Thanks, Adam. Also, just on the website, I can see a couple of comments in the chat. I've referenced a couple of articles, journal articles. More than happy to share those. Feel free to email me personally through the website. Everything is on the website. There's free stuff, there's purchase stuff, and so on. But if you have a specific question, please feel free to reach out. Happy to share. I see that as a big part of my role, and part of my journey is to be the conduit between all this amazing research and resources and you, the teacher who just doesn't have time. Ask me what you need, and I'll source it and find it for you.
Well, thank you all. And we as we draw things now to our conclusion, can I just thank you, Daniela, so much. You're always such fun, bubbly, and the positivity that comes from you is just, I would have loved to have been in your classroom. I may not even have joined that group, and the spitball terrors at the back row if I'd had you as my teacher. Dead set. Adam, thank you so much for pressing buttons, and the right sorts of buttons and all that sorts of things. But for you, all of you that have signed on into this, there would have been a variety of reasons why you signed in tonight. Can I just finish with this? Some of you, it would be because you've got burnout issues. And if that is the case, then my heart goes out to you. And I'm just going to close with this little story. I was sent an invitation not long ago. The invitation said, "Do you want to live forever, Dr. Hawkes? Do you want to live forever?" My students would have been horrified at the thought, but anyway, the fact that I lived at all terrifies them. But anyway, this is what the letter said: "Do you want to live forever?" And it said, "By the way, if you send 3 strands of your hair, we can preserve that hair in resin, and scientists in the future can use your DNA to make you again. By the way, send $300. Well, let me just say this. Because I've got 3 kids who steal all my money, I didn't have $300, so I didn't accept the invitation. Secondly, when you're losing hair as quickly as me, you cannot afford to give 3 strands of it to anyone. So look, that, so that was the second reason I didn't accept that particular invitation. But the third reason is the reason I want to share with you. And that is, in a very real sense, you guys are going to live forever anyway. You're going to live forever because your students are going to draw from you the knowledge, your values. They'll deny it, of course. Absolutely, totally uncool to admit this, but they will. They will. And I think for me, when people say to me, "Tim, Dr. Hawkes, why teaching?" And I'm thinking, well, in many ways, it's just a huge privilege. And that you can invest in the lives of future generations, and in many ways leave a little touch of yourself. We haven't got to look for permanency and relevance by colouring in railway stations with spray cans. We do it through teaching, and you guys have got to recognise just what an extraordinary job you're doing, and I just want to honour you, and I want to salute you for doing that, and wish you a safe and happy Easter break with your family and or loved ones, and avoid that burnout. Avoid that burnout. And if we, Daniela, and the tremendous work that she is doing, and Adam and I with the work we're doing in True, I can help you in any way, shape or form in that, then we would be delighted. So everyone, good night, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Do I do? Tim has left the meeting already. Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah.
Did you want to have a quick chat tomorrow?
I'm planning to have a quick chat now,
Yeah,
just
sure.
because we're trying to get that infographic in before Easter. Because
Do you
it's
want
not.
to? Do you want to have a phone? Do you want to leave this and we'll have a phone chat, or
Yeah,
do
no, probably.
another Zoom call with Tim?
Yeah, I'll do another Zoom call with Tim. Yeah.
Did you want me to be on the call? Did you want to have a chat with me?
Yeah, if you don't
Yep.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll see you in a minute.
Yeah, excellent.
Thanks heaps. Thanks heaps, Adam. Did an awesome job. Super.
Thanks.